The underground poker room smells like money and smoke and the kind of desperation that money cannot fix. Lightning cracks across the high windows, and thunder follows so close the green felt table shudders. Rain hammers the glass like something alive, something furious, something that has been caged too long. Aleandro Bianchi sits motionless at the head of the table, his tailored Italian suit the color of storm clouds, white shirt unbuttoned at the collar revealing the scar that runs from his collarbone to his chest like a blade wrapped in ice. His eyes are the gray of winter, penetrating, calculating, the eyes of a man who has spent 3 years searching for something he thought was lost forever. Before him, stacks of $100 bills climb like small cities. Around him, 12 men in black stand with their hands resting near weapons, their breathing synchronized, their loyalty absolute. Carlo stands to his left. Dario to his right. Neither man speaks. In 15 years of working for Aleandro Bianchi, silence has become their native language. The door to the poker room explodes inward. Water streams across the marble floor. The smell of summer rain and desperation floods in like a tide. Mia Hartley stands in the doorway, trembling, soaking wet, her thin cotton dress clinging to her skin like a second layer of poverty. She is 28 years old but appears decades older, her face carved by exhaustion, her eyes the color of someone who stopped sleeping months ago. Her hands grip 7-year-old Emma Ashford, the child burning with fever, the girl's small face flushed and slick with sweat, her breathing shallow and rapid. Every gun in the room shifts toward the door. The sound is soft, mechanical, the whisper of violence preparing to announce itself. Mia does not step back. She steps forward. "Please," she says, and her voice trembles like a candle in the wind. "Please, I know I shouldn't be here. I know the rules. I know everything about this place is dangerous and I'm nobody, just a nanny, just someone who cleans and cares for children and lives on tips that never come. But she's burning alive and the hospital said $85,000 for emergency surgery and she doesn't have $85,000 and I have $5, that's all that's left in my pocket, and I stole the car to get here because I was told once, years ago, by someone who knew, that if anything ever happened, if there was any emergency, I should find the man they call Aleandro. So I'm here. I'm asking. Not for me. For her." Aleandro's hands rest on the green felt. He does not move. He does not look away from the stacks of money before him. But something in his shoulders tightens. Something in the line of his jaw shifts by the smallest measure. Carlo's hand moves toward his gun. "Don't," Aleandro says, and the word falls like a stone into still water. His voice is deep and solid like an oath, like the kind of voice that has ended arguments before they could begin. Mia takes another step forward. Emma's small body trembles against her chest. The child's breath comes in shallow gasps, each one a little bit weaker than the last. Outside, the summer storm rages against the windows with the violence of something dying. "What is her name?" Aleandro asks. Mia's breath catches. "Emma." "How old?" 7. She's 7 years old. She's been getting sicker for 3 days and tonight her fever spiked so high I thought I was going to lose her and I drove like a person possessed and I found this address and I broke into a place where I have no right to be and I'm standing here in front of 12 men with guns asking for mercy from a stranger." "You are not a stranger," Aleandro says quietly. He rises from his chair. The motion is slow, deliberate, the way a general surveys a battlefield. He is 6'2", broad-shouldered, his movements controlled and precise. A gold watch catches the light on his left wrist. 3 diamond rings catch the light on his right hand. Every article of clothing he wears costs more than everything Mia has owned in her entire life combined. He walks toward her. The sound of his footsteps on the marble floor is the only sound in the room. Not one of his men moves. Not one of them breathes. In 15 years, they have never seen him approach a stranger like this. In 15 years, they have never seen him approach anyone like this. He stops in front of Emma. His storm-gray eyes move across her fevered face, examining her, studying her the way a man studies a photograph he has carried for 3 years, a photograph he has memorized down to the smallest detail. His hand rises slowly. His fingers brush the child's damp hair away from her feverish forehead. "Take her to St. Mary's Hospital," he says without looking away from Emma's face. "Tell them I am sending her. Tell them Aleandro Bianchi is sending her. They will not ask about the cost. They will not ask about insurance. They will save her life and they will send me the bill and they will not say a word about it." "Yes, sir," Carlo says immediately, already moving, already pulling out his phone. "And you," Aleandro says, turning to look at Mia for the first time. "You will come with them. You will stay with her. She will not be afraid." Mia's eyes fill with tears. "I don't understand. Why would you do this? You don't know me. You don't know her. We're nobody," Aleandro finishes, and his voice carries something sharp and cutting, something that has nothing to do with her and everything to do with a wound he carries. "You are nobody. And nobody is supposed to be invisible. Nobody is supposed to matter so little that their child can burn with fever alone in a hospital while strangers stare at bills they cannot afford. That is ending tonight." The sound of engines rumbles outside. Black SUVs pull up to the loading dock, their headlights cutting through the rain like swords through darkness. Carlo opens a black umbrella, impossibly large, impossibly expensive, and guides Mia and Emma out of the poker room. In the doorway, Emma turns her small head and looks back at Aleandro. "Are you the king?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. Aleandro does not smile, but something in his expression shifts. Something that has been frozen for 3 years begins to thaw. "No," he says. "But I know one." The rain swallows them. The door closes. Dario and the other men return to their positions around the table. Aleandro sits back down. His hands rest on the green felt. But he does not return to the game. He does not look at the money. He stares at the spot where Mia stood, where Emma stood, where something impossible just happened in a room that does not believe in miracles. "Something about her," Dario says carefully. "The child." "Did you?" "I did not," Aleandro says, cutting him off. "But I know what I saw." Outside, the storm intensifies. The rain becomes harder, angrier, the kind of rain that comes before something terrible. At St. Mary's Hospital, a surgeon is being called in at 2 in the morning. At a small apartment 6 blocks away, Mia does not yet know that she has just set in motion a series of events that will destroy the life she has carefully constructed out of invisibility and survival. What she does not know is that she has 12 days left before the eviction notice in red ink tears down her door. What she does not know is that the man she just begged for help has spent 3 years searching for a child that was stolen from him, sold to enemies in a war between brothers, hidden so completely that finding her became the obsession that consumed every waking hour. What she does not know is that at that exact moment, in a black sedan idling in an alley 3 blocks away, a man named Douglas Hale is receiving a phone call. His voice, when he speaks, carries the casual cruelty of someone who has hurt Mia before and fully intends to hurt her again. "She's here," he says into the phone. "The girl?" "The nanny brought her to Aleandro Bianchi." "Yes. I'm sure. My contacts just called it in. She drove right to the underground poker room during the storm. She walked in soaking wet with a feverish child and came out with a full escort." On the other end of the phone, Victoria Ashford's voice cuts through like broken glass. "That woman was supposed to remain exactly where we placed her. She was supposed to be invisible. Now find her. Find her and the child and bring them back before Bianchi figures out exactly what he is looking at. If he realizes what the girl is, if he realizes what we did, we will need more than lawyers to protect us. We will need miracles." Douglas Hale ends the call. He starts the engine. The black sedan pulls out of the alley into the rage of the summer storm, moving toward the hospital, moving toward Mia, moving toward a confrontation that will tear 3 lives into pieces before the night is finished. But that collision has not yet happened. That violence has not yet erupted. For now, in the surgical wing of St. Mary's Hospital, a surgeon saves a 7-year-old girl's life, and Mia Hartley sits in a waiting room with $5 in her pocket and absolutely no idea that everything she thought was permanent is about to shatter like glass beneath a hammer. The clock on the wall of St. Mary's Hospital surgical wing reads 11:13 p.m. when the surgeon walks into the waiting room and tells Mia Hartley that her daughter will live. Not her daughter. Emma. The 7-year-old girl she has cared for through 14-hour days and sleepless nights and a love so fierce it has no name. The surgery cost $85,000. Mia has $5 in her pocket. $5 and absolutely no plan for how she will ever pay the rest, and the surgeon is already walking away, already moving to the next family, the next crisis, the next emergency that fills these corridors like water filling a drowning man's lungs. She sits in the plastic chair and does not cry. Her tears dried up somewhere on a Greyhound bus 8 years ago, the same bus that carried her away from Douglas Hale's apartment with 2 broken ribs and a conviction that love, real love, was something that only happened to other people. She pulls out her phone with trembling fingers and opens her banking app. The number does not change no matter how many times she refreshes it. $5.17. That is everything she possesses in the world besides a used winter coat and a folder of documents she keeps hidden in a locked box under her bed, documents that prove she is not who Victoria Ashford has told everyone she is. But we are jumping ahead into a moment she has not yet reached. Let us go back to the beginning, to understand how a woman with nothing learned to give everything, and how one choice in the darkness changed the shape of her entire life forever. 12 days earlier, Mia's alarm sounds at 5:02 in the morning in a room so small that when she lies down on the twin mattress, her feet nearly touch the opposite wall. This is the converted closet in the basement of the Ashford mansion, the room they call the servants' quarters, though she prefers to think of it as simply a place where she is allowed to sleep. She dresses in the darkness to avoid waking the other household staff, pulling on the black pants and white blouse that Victoria Ashford requires, the uniform that makes her invisible in rooms full of people. Invisible is safe. Invisible means no one asks questions. Invisible means no one looks closely enough to see the scars running in every direction across her back like a map of hell, a road map of 8 years spent with a man whose hands were always looking for something to break. The house is silent as she climbs the stairs. The grandfather clock in the main foyer ticks steadily, each second a small affirmation that time is still moving forward, still carrying her away from the woman she used to be. The kitchen is hers alone for these first hours before the family wakes. She moves through the space like a ghost, quiet and faithful and unseen, preparing Emma's breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast with jam, fresh orange juice in a crystal glass because even invisible people deserve to eat from beautiful things. Emma is 7 years old and has not spoken a complete sentence to any adult in 3 months. Her eyes are grey-blue, the color of a sky before a storm, and when she looks at Mia, it is as though she is searching for something hidden inside her, some proof that this particular adult will not disappear like the others. The girl's hair is dark and fine, pulled back with a white ribbon that matches nothing about her withdrawn posture. She wears designer clothes that hang loose on her small frame, as though she is still learning how to fill out her own body. "Good morning, Emma," Mia says, setting the plate in front of her. "I made the eggs the way you like them. Not too brown on the edges." Emma does not respond. She picks up her fork and eats in complete silence, her movements careful and precise, as though each motion has been rehearsed. Mia sits across from her, not eating, just watching to make sure the girl finishes at least half the plate. This is her job. This is all her job is, to make sure Emma eats, gets to school, comes home, does homework, goes to bed. 14 hours a day for 365 days a year, earning $1,700 per month, which sounds like nothing until you understand that she owes $85,000 in back rent and utilities and debt collector settlements from a life that ended 8 years ago. The front door opens. Footsteps, sharp, quick, the sound of expensive heels on marble, announce Victoria Ashford's entry into the kitchen. She is 46 years old but maintains the appearance of someone 10 years younger through procedures and discipline and a casual cruelty that seems to keep her skin tight and her eyes bright. She wears a cream-colored Chanel suit that costs more than everything Mia owned before she came to this house, and her phone is already pressed to her ear, already conducting business before 8 o'clock in the morning. The nanny? I don't know her name, Victoria says into the phone, not bothering to lower her voice, speaking as though Mia and Emma are furniture. She's just the help. Yes, Emma seems withdrawn. I've noticed it. The girl doesn't speak, barely eats, flinches when adults move too quickly. The nanny seems competent enough, I suppose. She doesn't ask questions, which is exactly what I need in someone caring for a child who requires discretion. I'll send along a check for her monthly wage. Keep her comfortable. Keep her invisible. That's all that matters. She leaves without acknowledging either of them. The door closes. Emma's fork stops moving. After school, Mia notices the bruises on Emma's arm, small oval marks that look exactly like adult fingers. She sees them when the girl reaches up to place her hand on Mia's shoulder during the walk home from the bus stop. For a moment, Mia's entire body goes still. She has seen bruises like this before. She has worn bruises like this. She knows exactly what they mean and exactly how powerless she is to do anything about them. She cannot call child services because Victoria Ashford is wealthy and connected and the kind of woman who has lawyers on speed dial, who can make accusations disappear with a single phone call to a judge. She cannot ask questions because asking questions means losing this job, and losing this job means homelessness, and homelessness means death, and death would be a mercy compared to what Douglas Hale would do to her if he ever found her again. That night, after Emma is asleep, Mia sits in the darkness of her basement room and searches on her ancient laptop. The internet connection is slow and unreliable, but she types carefully, Aleandro Bianchi, Las Vegas. The search results fill her screen with newspaper articles from 3 years ago, photographs of a man with dark eyes and a scar running from his left eye to his cheekbone, news stories about a missing daughter, a child sold as leverage in a territorial war by his own brother. The articles describe a kidnapping, a betrayal that tore apart a family empire. They describe a search that has consumed 3 years and countless resources, a father's rage transformed into systematic investigation. Then she sees the photograph. A child's school picture from 5 years ago. The same grey-blue eyes. The same dark hair. The same small mouth pressed into a line that suggests she has learned not to smile at cameras. Emma. The missing daughter. The girl she has been feeding and tucking into bed and whispering goodnight to while the girl's real father searches the city like a man looking for his own heartbeat. Mia closes the laptop. Her hands are shaking. She pulls out her phone and dials a number she finds online, a social services line, and listens to a recorded voice explain the procedures for reporting suspected abuse. When a real person answers, Mia describes what she has seen. The bruises. The withdrawn behavior. The way Victoria Ashford speaks about Emma as though she were a piece of furniture, an inconvenient possession that requires maintenance. The person on the other end of the line listens politely and then delivers the response Mia has come to expect from every institution she has ever trusted: we need evidence. We cannot intervene in the lives of wealthy families without concrete proof. If you have direct observation of abuse occurring, you are welcome to file a formal report, but without witness testimony or hospital documentation, our hands are tied. Mia hangs up. Her hands are still shaking. 12 days pass in this way. She wakes at 5:24 a.m. She prepares Emma's breakfast. She watches the girl eat in silence. She walks her to school and picks her up and helps her with homework and reads bedtime stories in a voice she forces to remain calm, to remain gentle, to remain the one stable thing in a small girl's fractured life. And every single day, she counts the money in her account, watching it decrease as bills come due and her landlord sends increasingly aggressive letters about the apartment she rents in a part of Las Vegas that is so dangerous the buses stop running after 8 p.m. On the 12th day, Victoria calls her into the study. "There's a matter we should discuss regarding your living situation," Victoria says, and Mia's entire body goes cold because she has heard these words before in different houses, from different people, always preceding the moment when everything falls apart. But instead, Victoria slides an eviction notice across the desk. the edges printed in red ink, the deadline marked in bold. You have 14 days to vacate these premises or legal action will be taken. I'm not sure how this got mixed in with my mail, Victoria says, smiling without warmth. But I thought you should have it back. Seems your landlord is taking quite an aggressive approach to your situation. Of course, none of this is my concern. You're just the help, after all. But I imagine you'll need to make some decisions about your future rather quickly now. Mia takes the notice with numb fingers. 14 days. Which means she has the 12 days already counting in the Ashford house, plus 2 more days before the locks change and her possessions are thrown into the street and she becomes what she has always feared becoming, a woman with absolutely nothing, not even a place to sleep. That night, Emma runs a fever. At first, it is small, barely noticeable, a warmth in her skin when Mia tucks her under the covers, a slight flush in her cheeks that might be nothing at all. But by midnight, Emma is trembling, her small body shaking beneath the blanket as though her own cells are trying to escape from her skin. Mia places her hand on the girl's forehead and feels the heat radiating upward, feels the fever climbing like a fire looking for escape routes. 103 degrees. 104. 104.2. Emma, sweetheart, can you hear me? Mia's voice breaks on the words. Stay with me, baby. Stay right here. She calls 911 at 1:23 in the morning. The ambulance arrives with its lights cutting through the darkness, and paramedics rush into the house carrying equipment and speaking in calm, practiced voices about seizure risk and fluid loss and the need for immediate hospital evaluation. Mia rides with Emma in the back of the ambulance, holding her small hand, whispering promises she has no power to keep. At the hospital, after the tests and the imaging and the grim-faced conversations with doctors, they tell her, Emma has acute bacterial meningitis. She needs emergency surgery. The procedure costs $85,000. They will not admit her without payment. They will not operate without a guarantee that the bill will be paid in full. Mia has $5 in her pocket. She has a 12-day eviction notice. She has nothing except the certainty that a 7-year-old girl will die if she does not do something impossible. That is when she remembers Victoria's car keys, hanging in a kitchen drawer in a house 3 miles away. That is when she makes the choice that will splinter her invisible world into 1,000 pieces and change the shape of everything that comes after. She walks out of the hospital and into the humid July night, and she knows exactly where she needs to go. The humidity hangs over Las Vegas like a curse that cannot be erased, thick enough to choke on, heavy enough to collapse lungs. Mia Hartley sits in the driver's seat of a Mercedes that does not belong to her, her hands trembling on the wheel as though her own body is betraying her from the inside out. The car smells like expensive perfume and leather that costs more than everything she has ever owned. In the back seat, wrapped in blankets soaked through with sweat, Emma lies barely conscious, her small body burning from the inside with a fever that has climbed to 104.2 degrees. The hospital had refused to admit her without $85,000. $85,000. The number sits in Mia's chest like a blade, sharp and unforgiving, because she has $5 in her pocket and 12 days before an eviction notice in red ink sends her and this child onto the streets. She drives through streets slick with humidity, past casinos with their neon signs bleeding into the darkness like open wounds. Lightning cracks across the sky in jagged lines, and the first drops of rain begin to fall, heavy and angry. Her research had taken 2 hours on a library computer 3 weeks ago, scrolling through threatening texts from Douglas Hale, her ex-boyfriend, the man who had owned her body like property for 8 years. He had bragged in those texts about making deals in an underground poker room on 5th and Granite, had described it with the casual cruelty of someone who believed the world bent to his will. I know people there, Mia, he had written. Powerful people. I could have you erased before breakfast. She remembers the first time he hit her. It was 8 years ago in her apartment that smelled like stale beer and broken promises. He had been charming at first, the way predators always are, flowers on the first date, compliments that felt like gentle hands, promises whispered against her skin like prayers. Then came the night she said no to something he wanted. The first slap had been almost tender, a testing blow, his hand against her cheek like he was checking if she would shatter. She did not shatter. She only learned to be smaller, to take up less space, to make herself invisible enough that maybe he would forget to hurt her. 6 times she escaped. 6 times he found her. The 7th time, she stopped trying to leave. Instead, she learned to survive. She learned to anticipate which of his moods would bring the bottle, the broken glass, the nights when he carved warnings into her back like she was a canvas and he was an artist expressing rage. Scars running in every direction like a map of hell, like a road map of suffering, each one a place where she had failed to disappear fast enough. 2 weeks ago, he had found her again. The text had arrived while she was putting Emma to bed, the girl's small body curled against her side like a question mark seeking an answer. "I know where you work now, Mia. I'm coming for you." Those words had opened a door in her chest that she had spent 8 years trying to seal shut. The Mercedes turns onto 5th Avenue, and Mia can see the building rising from the darkness like a tomb, unmarked, windowless, the kind of place that exists in whispers and threats. 2 men in black suits stand outside the entrance, their posture speaking the language of violence before their mouths ever open. She pulls the car to a stop, and her hands grip the wheel so hard her knuckles turn white like bone. She wraps Emma in the blanket, lifts her from the back seat, and carries her toward the door, her legs moving like they belong to someone else, someone braver, someone less afraid. The guards step forward. "You can't go in there," the first one says, his hand moving toward his jacket. "My daughter needs help," Mia says, and the word daughter tastes like a lie and a prayer all at once. "Please." Something in her voice, some fracture in the word, makes them pause. One guard speaks into a radio. A moment passes like an eternity compressed into seconds. The door swings open. The poker room is a cathedral of sin, the green felt table at its center like an altar where fortunes are sacrificed and loyalty is tested. Cigar smoke hangs in the air so thick you can see it moving like ghosts, like the spirits of men who gambled everything and lost. 3 men sit at the table counting money in practice stacks, their fingers moving with the precision of accountants, and 2 others stand flanking the seat at the head of the table. That is where Aleandro Bianchi sits. He is tall, broad-shouldered, his Italian suit tailored so perfectly it seems to have grown from his skin rather than been placed upon it. His white shirt is unbuttoned at the collar, showing the muscular expanse of his chest, and a single gold chain rests against his skin like a promise or a warning. Dark hair, peppered silver at the temples, frames a face that looks carved from stone, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, eyes the color of a storm gathering in July. A scar runs from the corner of his left eye down to his cheekbone like a blade wrapped in ice, and when those eyes lift and find her, Mia feels the temperature of the room drop 20 degrees. "Out," he commands, and his voice is deep and solid like an oath, like thunder speaking to lesser weather. Everyone except Carlo and Dario. "Now." The men move with the automatic obedience of those who have learned long ago that hesitation costs more than compliance. The door closes. The money is abandoned on the table, forgotten like children's toys. Mia steps forward, and her voice trembles like a candle in the wind. "Your daughter. Emma. She has the birthmark you described in the news 3 years ago. Crescent moon behind her left ear. She hums the Italian lullaby about stars, the one your mother sang. I know because she hums it every night when she thinks no one is listening." Aleandro rises from his chair so fast it crashes backward, the sound cracking through the room like a gunshot. He moves toward them in 3 strides, his movements controlled and deliberate, and when he reaches them he does not touch Emma at first. He only looks at her, at the small dark curls plastered to her forehead with fever sweat, at the flushed cheeks, at the way her mouth hangs slightly open as though she is not quite conscious enough to keep the basic architecture of living intact. "Turn her," he says, his voice fractured, barely recognizable as human speech. Mia gently rotates Emma, brushes the damp hair away from her ear, reveals the crescent moon birthmark, pale against the fever-flushed skin. Aleandro's hand rises to touch it, trembles an inch away from the mark, and then he is crying. Tears stream down his face like rain on a windowpane, silent and absolute, the first crack in an armor built from 15 years of war and blood and the systematic destruction of anyone foolish enough to challenge him. Carlo and Dario exchange a look neither has seen in the history of their service. In 15 years, they have never witnessed their boss weep. Emergency surgery, Mia says, forcing the words through the collapse of her own throat. Tonight. The infection is spreading toward her heart. The hospital wants $85,000. I have 5. I stole my employer's car because I had nothing else to offer. Aleandro's eyes find hers, and something shifts in them, some glacier of ice cracking under pressure. She gets the surgery, he says, and his voice is steel-wrapped in velvet. Carlo, call Dr. Reeves. Tell him I am coming. Tell him the cost does not matter. No, Mia says, and the word drops into the silence like a stone into water. No. Why would you help me? I am nobody. Just a nanny who couldn't protect her. I am nobody and she is nobody, Anne. You protected her when her own family sold her like property, Aleandro says, and he steps closer, his presence filling the space between them like gravity. You protected her with $5 in your pocket. You protected her by stealing a car and walking into a room full of men who could erase you with a phone call. You are not nobody. The words lodge in her chest like a key turning in a lock that has been sealed for years. Carlo is already on his phone, speaking in rapid Italian, and Dario has moved to Emma with a gentleness that seems impossible in a man built like a weapon. He brushes her hair from her face with fingers that have probably ended lives, and his expression is careful, reverent, like he is handling something sacred that could shatter. Come, Aleandro says, and he removes his jacket, cashmere, the color of midnight, worth more than a year of her old rent, and wraps it around her shoulders. His warmth surrounds her, and for the first time in 8 years, Mia does not flinch at a man's touch. Tell me about her. Tell me everything. They move to a corner of the room, away from the table, and Mia begins to speak. She tells him about Emma's favorite bedtime story, the one about a girl who finds a door in the forest. She tells him how Emma hums when she thinks no one is listening, how she is afraid of the dark but too proud to admit it, how she has stopped speaking to her adoptive parents and only speaks to Mia, trusting Mia with all the words she cannot give to anyone else. She tells him how Emma asked her 2 weeks ago if everyone leaves, or if some people stay. Aleandro listens without interrupting, and as he listens something shifts in him, some wall that has stood for 3 years beginning to crumble. He tells her that his brother Thomas took $2 million and a promise of territory. He tells her that Thomas delivered Emma to the Salazar family in a cardboard box like garbage, like she was not a child but a piece of merchandise to be traded on the black market. He tells her that he put a bullet in his own brother's head and has spent every single day since hunting through the underworld, following whispers and rumors, searching for a child he had no right to lose because he had failed to protect her. But I found her, he says, and his hand reaches toward Emma's hair, touches it like it might disappear if he does not convince himself of its solidity. Because of you, I found her. At that same hour, 3 blocks away, Douglas Hale is receiving a phone call. He is standing in a parking lot outside a convenience store, his knuckles wrapped in bandages from the wall he punched 2 hours ago when his dealer told him Mia had disappeared again. His face is scarred across the knuckles, and his eyes track movement like a predator, like a hunter who has caught the scent of prey that believed itself safe. The voice on the phone is female, educated, dripping with false concern. Mr. Hale? This is Victoria Ashford. I believe you may be looking for someone. A woman named Mia Hartley. I have information about her location. Douglas's grip tightens on the phone. Where? Victoria tells him. She tells him about the underground poker room on 5th and Granite, tells him that Mia has stolen her Mercedes and is currently inside with her daughter. She tells him the address and the time and the vulnerability of the moment. What she does not tell him is that she is coordinating with him because Aleandro Bianchi is about to discover that Emma is not actually Victoria's legally adopted daughter. What she does not tell him is that if Emma's paternity is proven, 6 other children that Victoria placed through her underground adoption network will be traced back to her, federal charges will follow, prison time will become inevitable, and everything she has built will collapse into dust and regret. I want her removed, Victoria says. Permanently. Take her somewhere she cannot talk to anyone. I do not care what you do with her, but she cannot remain alive to tell her story. Douglas is already moving toward his truck. I'll take care of it. The rain begins in earnest now, falling from the sky in sheets, and inside the poker room Mia is pulling her shirt up just far enough to show Aleandro the scars. She needs him to understand the gravity of Douglas Hale, needs him to see the roadmap written across her skin in tissue and damage. Her back is a canvas of suffering, scars from broken bottles, from the edge of a belt buckle, from a night when Douglas was so angry he used his cigarettes like a branding iron. Carlo inhales sharply. Dario looks away, his jaw tightening until the muscle stands out like rope under skin. Aleandro's hand rises and does not touch her, hovers above the scarred landscape like he is afraid his touch will cause more damage. But his voice, when he speaks, is quiet and absolute and more dangerous than any shout could ever be. Who did this? Douglas Hale, Mia whispers. 8 years. I reported him 17 times. Police said there was insufficient evidence. He has connections. He always finds me. He will never touch you again, Aleandro says, and in those 7 words is a promise carved from granite and sealed with blood. I swear this to you on my daughter's life. He will never touch you again. Emma stirs in Dario's arms, her eyes fluttering open for just a moment, and her small voice breaks through the weight of everything else. Mia. Don't leave me. I'm here, baby, Mia says, and she moves to them, and Emma reaches for her with the grip of a drowning child reaching for shore. I'm right here. Outside, the rain continues to fall, and the summer sky splits open with lightning. 2 black SUVs pull to a stop outside the building, and Douglas Hale emerges from the lead vehicle with 4 men in uniforms, corrupted police officers whose loyalty he purchased with cash and promises. He is moving toward the entrance, his hand on the gun holstered at his hip, his face twisted with the singular focus of a predator who has cornered his prey. Behind him, Victoria Ashford watches from her car, her phone in her hand, waiting for confirmation that Mia Hartley has been erased from existence. The doors to the poker room burst open. The doors burst open like thunder, and Douglas Hale stands there dripping wet from the summer rain, 4 men in police uniforms at his back, their badges catching the light like lies made visible. His face is purple with rage, the kind of rage that has been building for 8 years, the kind that has learned to wear a smile and a gun holster and a sense of ownership over another person's body. Behind him, Victoria Ashford clicks across the concrete floor in designer heels that cost more than Mia's monthly rent, her face arranged in the particular coldness that only comes from a lifetime of believing her money makes her untouchable. Mia, Douglas says, and his voice is the voice of someone speaking to property that has misbehaved. You're coming with me now. You belong to me. Victoria's voice cuts through like a blade wrapped in ice. Officers, arrest that woman for kidnapping and grand theft auto. Arrest Mr. Bianchi for harboring a fugitive. Emma is my daughter legally. I have the papers to prove it. You have nothing. The corrupted police officers move forward, hands on their weapons, the sound of safeties clicking off echoing through the poker room like the countdown to something terrible. The rain outside pounds the roof so hard it sounds like the sky is breaking apart. Aleandro steps in front of Mia and Emma without turning around, without hesitation, without any acknowledgement of the guns pointed at his chest. When he speaks, his voice is quiet and absolute, a voice that has commanded empires and buried enemies in unmarked graves. You have 5 seconds to leave this building. Douglas laughs. The sound is ugly, distorted, the laugh of someone who has never heard the word no and believed it. You think you scare me? I've broken her 100 times. She always comes back to me. She's mine. She's always been mine. No, Mia whispers from behind Aleandro. The word is barely a sound, barely a breath, but it exists. It is real. It is hers. She stands behind him with Emma clinging to her legs like she is drowning and Mia is the only shore, and in this moment, in this terrible bright moment, Mia believes every word Douglas has ever said about her. That she is broken. That she brings destruction to everyone she touches. That the only reason she is still alive is because he has allowed her to live. The scars on her back, 15 of them, each one a memory of a night she wants to forget, they burn like they are fresh, like the wounds were made this morning instead of over 8 years of violence and silence. Her hands shake so badly she can barely keep holding Emma upright. Her vision begins to tunnel, the room compressing into smaller and smaller squares until all she can see is the gun at Douglas's hip and the expression on his face that says he is about to use it. She calculates the distance to the back door. She calculates whether she could run with Emma fast enough to disappear into the summer storm, maybe far enough that Douglas and Victoria would leave Aleandro alone. Maybe if she just surrendered, if she just went back with him, everyone else would survive. The rain outside sounds like static, like white noise, like all the thoughts in her head dissolving into nothing. But then Emma's small hand, this child she has loved for 3 months, this daughter of her heart who has never known safety until Mia held her, Emma's small hand squeezes hers and whispers something that breaks the spell, "You promised you wouldn't leave." Mia lifts her chin. She steps beside Aleandro instead of behind him, and her voice, when it comes, is shattered glass held in a human throat, but it is steady. "I'm not going anywhere." Douglas moves forward to grab her, his face contorted, his hand reaching out like he has every right to touch what does not belong to him. Victoria signals the corrupted officers to advance. They move in slow motion or fast motion, Mia cannot tell anymore, time has become unreliable, gravity has become optional. And then Douglas pulls his gun. He aims it not at Aleandro, not at the lieutenants who are moving silently toward backup positions, but at Emma. His finger tightens on the trigger and he screams, "If I can't have her, no one can. If she won't come back to me, I'll destroy everything she loves." Time stops being a line and becomes a point, a single atom of existence, and in that atom Mia sees 3 things simultaneously: the gun, the rage in Douglas's eyes, and Emma's face opening like a flower in the moment before the hammer falls. She does not think. Her body moves without permission from her mind. She throws herself in front of the child just as the first shot fires. The bullet tears through her left shoulder and the pain is white, is everything, is a universe of hurt collapsed into a single point of fire. She hears the second shot before she feels it, a wet sound, a tearing sound, and then fire spreads across her ribs, stealing her breath, making the world tilt sideways. The third bullet punches through her thigh and she crashes backward onto the poker table, her body landing hard on green felt, her blood mixing with spilled whiskey and $100 bills scattered like confetti at a funeral. The rain outside sounds like applause. But what Victoria and Douglas did not know, what neither of them could have known, was that the moment they entered the building, the moment Aleandro saw the guns, he had sent a signal to Carlo with nothing but a glance. A glance that said, "Now." 12 men in black tactical gear move like ghosts through the back entrance of the poker room, weapons drawn, their movements synchronized and silent and absolute. They materialize from the shadows as if they have always been there, waiting, watching, ready. Red laser sights paint themselves across the chests of Douglas's men like accusations written in light. Carlo's voice is cold and final, "Drop your weapons. Now." The corrupted police officers drop their guns immediately, their hands going up, their faces going pale. They have badges and uniforms and years of training, but they also have wives and children and futures, and they recognize in an instant that those futures have become optional. They surrender without a sound except for the clatter of metal on concrete. Douglas stands motionless, the gun still in his hand, his face rotating through emotions like a broken kaleidoscope. Rage becomes confusion, becomes fear, becomes a kind of animal desperation. He is dragged to his knees by 2 men whose names he will never know, and his gun is knocked away so hard it slides across the floor and disappears into shadow. Aleandro crouches in front of him, his tailored suit somehow still immaculate despite the violence, despite the blood, despite the ruin of everything Douglas thought he was. When Aleandro speaks, his voice is like death having a conversation with prey that is finally beginning to understand it has always been prey. "You put your hands on her for 8 years, Aleandro says, and each word is perfectly articulated, perfectly measured, perfectly cruel. You scarred her. You hunted her. You broke her body so many times that she stopped believing her body belonged to her. And you did all of this because you believed that your desire was her destiny. You were wrong." He signals to Dario without looking away from Douglas's face. "Take him to the Salazar family. Tell them he is the gift I promised them 3 years ago. Tell them he is theirs. They will know what to do with men who hurt women. Douglas's screams begin before they have even dragged him toward the door. No. Not them. Just kill me. Please, just kill me. I'm begging you, just kill me. Aleandro stands and turns away, his voice following the men like a curse. Too quick. Too easy. Too merciful. Victoria Ashford tries to maintain the architecture of her composure, tries to call upon the particular coldness that has protected her wealth and her secrets for 47 years. She threatens lawsuits. She threatens connections. She threatens the power of money, the power of names, the power of people who will remember her donation to the mayor's campaign. Aleandro pulls a folder from inside his jacket and opens it with one hand. Photographs spill out. Documents. Bank records. Birth certificates with forged signatures. Adoption papers that were never filed legally. Evidence of 6 children sold to wealthy families by corrupt social workers. Evidence of bribes paid in cash. Evidence of a trafficking operation that has been operating in Las Vegas for the past 9 years. I've already sent copies to the FBI, Aleandro says, his voice carrying the finality of a verdict. They will be at your door in 2 hours. Your mansion will be seized. Your bank accounts will be frozen. Every newspaper in this country will run your photograph and your crimes on their front pages. Your daughter will learn that you purchased her from criminals. Your husband will leave you. Your friends will deny you ever existed. You will spend the remaining years of your life in a federal prison cell, and no amount of money will change that. Victoria's face crumbles. Her voice rises to a shriek that is barely human. You can't do this. I'm protected. I have friends in high places. Not anymore, Aleandro says. The downfall is systematic and absolute. Douglas Hale is handed over to the Salazar family in the warehouse district at midnight, and the screaming that follows echoes off concrete and metal for hours before it stops forever. He is never seen again. He becomes a story, a warning, a ghost that mothers whisper to their daughters to convince them that justice sometimes has a price and sometimes that price is paid in suffering. Victoria Ashford is arrested at dawn by 6 FBI agents in front of her mansion, the news cameras capturing her in her silk robe, her face twisted, her foundation running with tears as they read her rights. 40 years in federal prison. Asset seizure. Full forfeiture of all holdings. Within 1 hour, 500,000 people have seen the footage online. By morning, 2 million. By the end of the week, every major news outlet in the country has run the story of the wealthy woman who trafficked children, and her name becomes synonymous with cruelty, with corruption, with a particular kind of evil that wears designer clothes and hosts charity galas. On the poker table, Mia lies unconscious, her body pale against the green felt, her blood still spreading slowly across the surface like a dark flower opening. Emma is frozen beside her, her small hand still gripping Mia's limp fingers, her voice small and broken. Mia? Mia, wake up. Please wake up. I'm scared. Aleandro kneels beside Mia's body. Carlo and Dario stand watch, their eyes forward, their bodies still, giving him this moment because in 15 years of working for him they have never seen him kneel for anyone, and they understand that something fundamental has shifted in the universe. He touches her face with a hand that has ordered men to their deaths, and his whisper carries a promise carved from granite and sealed with blood: you saved my daughter. Now I save you. I swear this to you on everything I am, on every breath I take, I will not let you leave me. I will not let you die. Stay with me. The rain outside begins to slow, as if the sky itself has exhausted its tears. 3 days after the bullets tore through her body, Mia Hartley opened her eyes to white sheets and the smell of antiseptic mixed with expensive cologne. The ceiling above her was not the water-stained plaster of her apartment. It was smooth, pristine, ivory. Machines beeped softly beside the bed, monitors tracking her heart, her oxygen, the slow climb back toward living. Pain medications made the world soft around the edges, dreamlike, unreal. She tried to sit up. Her body screamed. Every movement sent lightning through her ribs, her shoulder, her abdomen where the third bullet had carved its path. And 4-line tore from her wrist and she gasped, panic flooding her chest like ice water. "Easy." Carlo's voice, calm and measured. The lieutenant appeared at her bedside, his dark suit jacket removed, his white shirt sleeves rolled up. He pressed the 4-line gently back into place. "You're safe. Best surgeons in Vegas operated on you. Boss's orders. Don't move." "Where?" Her voice was a stranger's voice, cracked and hollow. "Where am I?" "Penthouse infirmary. 42 floors above the city. No one gets up here without walking through 8 checkpoints." He adjusted the 4 tape with surprising gentleness for a man whose hands had likely done terrible things. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. Your body needed to rest." The door opened. Aleandro Bianchi stood in the frame like a shadow given human form. He wore yesterday's clothes, a black shirt partially unbuttoned, dark slacks creased from sitting. His jaw carried the black stubble of someone who had not slept, and his eyes, those dark storm-grey eyes, were hollowed with exhaustion. He looked like a man who had spent 72 hours standing at the edge of an abyss. He sat beside her bed without speaking. His hand found hers, careful not to disturb the bandages, and he simply held it. The weight of his presence was enormous. "Your daughter," Mia whispered. "Emma. Is she?" "She's safe. She's downstairs in the East Wing with 2 nurses and enough picture books to build a library. She asks for you every hour." His voice was solid like an oath. "She didn't witness the shooting." Carlo grabbed her, pulled her away before the first shot landed. "She knows you saved her. She knows you were hurt. She's been praying for you without knowing the exact words to pray." Mia closed her eyes. Emma was alive. Emma was safe. The mathematics of that truth was enough to shatter her into pieces. "Your ex-boyfriend," Aleandro continued, and his voice changed texture, became something harder, sharper. "Douglas Hale will not bother you again. That situation has been handled with absolute finality. He has disappeared from the world in a way that he will never reappear. You're safe from him." "What did you?" "What I did is not something you need to carry. What matters is that he cannot hurt you. He cannot stalk you. He cannot lay a hand on you or any person you love ever again." He squeezed her hand gently. Victoria Ashford was arrested at dawn. FBI agents came to her mansion. 40 years in federal prison. Her name is now attached to charges of human trafficking, corruption of minors, conspiracy. By tomorrow, every news outlet in the country will know what she is. Mia's mind could not hold all of this. It was too large, too impossible. The surgery for Emma. The $85,000. How did you? It was paid on the night you were shot. Before your body even reached the operating table, the hospital had confirmation of payment. He paused. There is something else. The building where you were living. The one with the eviction notice in red ink. The deadline you were counting down to. I bought the entire building. The deed is transferred to your name. It is yours. All of it. No mortgage, no payment plan, no landlord. Yours. She could not cry. Her body was too damaged, her emotions too overwhelmed, somewhere beyond tears. She lay there with his hand holding hers and tried to understand how a person goes from counting dollar bills on a Tuesday morning to owning property on a Friday night. Why? The word came out broken. I'm nobody. I was just a nanny. You don't owe me anything. Aleandro's jaw clenched. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a promise carved from granite. You took 3 bullets meant for my daughter. 3. You had nothing in the world except $5 and the willingness to walk into a dangerous place for a child who was not even your own. That makes you everything. That makes you the opposite of nobody. That makes you the bravest person I have ever met in a life spent among killers. Over the following week, Mia moved through the penthouse like a ghost walking through someone else's dream. Her body healed in increments. By day 4, she could sit upright without screaming. By day 5, she took 3 steps to the window and looked out at Las Vegas spread below her like a circuit board of lights and ambition. Emma came to her room each afternoon carrying picture books. The 7-year-old sat on the edge of the bed and read aloud, her voice careful and proud. She read about princesses and dragons and a caterpillar that became a butterfly. When Emma finished each story, she looked at Mia with an intensity that felt ancient. "I thought you were not coming back," Emma said on the 6th day. "Like my real mommy. I thought you were gone." Mia touched the girl's dark hair. "I came back. You bled on the carpet. There was so much red. And then the man with the scar came and held me and said you were going to be okay, and he was wrong because you were not okay for a long time." Emma's eyes did not blink. "But you are here now. You are real. I can touch you." The child reached out and placed her small hand on Mia's arm, as if confirming that flesh was solid, that she was not a hallucination born from desperation. Aleandro brought meals to her room himself on the 7th day. Pasta with fresh herbs, chicken broth, bread that must have come from somewhere expensive because it smelled like comfort and wheat and thyme. He sat beside her while she ate, and they talked about small things. He asked her about her childhood in Phoenix. She told him about a mother who sang while washing dishes. He told her about learning to cook from his grandmother before everything in his life became violence and empire. "My men are confused," he said on the 8th day. "In 15 years, they have never seen me sit in a room with someone like this. Just present. Quiet. Not giving orders. They think something is wrong with me." "Is there?" Mia asked. "Yes." He did not look away from her eyes. "There is something very wrong with me. It is called being in love with you, and I have no idea how to manage it." The words fell between them like stones dropped into still water. Mia felt something twist in her chest, part joy, part terror, part the ancient knowledge that love was a weapon and she had been burned by that weapon before. By the end of the 2nd week, she could walk. Her bandages became smaller. The fall line came out. The pain medications dropped to levels where her mind became clear again, and clarity brought with it the weight of truth. She was in love with a man who controlled an empire of violence. A man who had ordered people erased from existence. A man whose strength came from ruthlessness and whose power came from fear. She had seen him hold Emma like she was made of glass. She had watched him bring her soup and sit beside her bed through the night, running his thumb across her hand in the darkness. She had heard him tell his men to stand down, to protect her, to die for her if necessary. And she knew, with the certainty of someone who had survived 8 years of abuse, that loving him meant bringing danger into his world. Late on the 14th night, Mia sat at the penthouse desk and began to write. The pen shook in her hands, but she pressed forward, each word a brick she was laying to build a wall between herself and the only person who had ever truly wanted her. "Aleandro," she wrote, "you gave me a life I never dreamed possible. You saved my daughter, because that is what Emma is, your daughter, and she deserves someone who can give her peace, not someone whose past is a liability. I can't be the weakness that destroys you. I can't be the reason someone comes for what you love. I love you both too much to stay. I'm leaving before I can hurt you. Forgive me. Mia." She packed the small bag of clothes he had bought her. Black jeans, a sweater in grey wool, shoes that did not have holes in the soles. She booked a flight to Seattle using money from the property deed he had transferred to her. A new identity, a new name, a new disappearance into the kind of invisibility she knew how to wear. At 4 in the morning, she called a car service from her phone. The taxi arrived and she climbed in, holding Emma's stuffed rabbit, the only thing she could take that belonged to the child. The airport terminal was nearly empty at that hour. Gate B17. She had 12 minutes before boarding. Her boarding pass trembled in her hands. Her phone showed the letter she had written, the words still burning on the screen. Then Aleandro appeared. He walked through the terminal in yesterday's clothes. Carlo and Dario followed at a distance, keeping the perimeter clear, their eyes alert but their faces expressionless. Aleandro held her handwritten letter in his hands, the ink still wet from when she had written it in the darkness. Tears streamed down his face. Passengers stared. He did not care. "You think you're a weakness." His voice carried through the terminal like a bell. "You protected my daughter when you had nothing but $5 and a beating heart. You walked into danger for her. You took bullets for her. That's not weakness. That's the strongest love I have ever witnessed." Mia stood up. The boarding pass fell from her hands. "I'll bring danger," she whispered. "My life is danger. Danger is the language of my world. But you brought something else. You brought light. You brought Emma back to me. You brought yourself, broken and terrified and refusing to give up." He closed the distance between them. "Stay with me. Please. I am asking you to stay." The final boarding call for Seattle sounded overhead. Mia looked at the gate, at freedom, at the possibility of disappearing again into a life where no one could be hurt by proximity to her. Then she looked at Aleandro's face, at the raw vulnerability of a man who had built walls of concrete and steel around his heart and let her through all of them. She dropped her boarding pass. They met in the middle of the terminal. His arms came around her and she felt the trembling in his chest, the same trembling she carried. Emma appeared from behind Carlo, running full speed, throwing her arms around both of them. "You didn't leave," Emma said. "You stayed." Mia held them both as the sun rose over Las Vegas, as the city began its daily ascent toward noise and light and the endless promise of transformation. 6 months later, the penthouse kitchen filled with morning light. Mia and Emma made pancakes together, the child standing on a step stool, her hands covered in batter, her face concentrated with the seriousness of the task. Aleandro walked in carrying coffee and something else, a small velvet box that caught the light. Carlo and Dario stood visible through the window on security detail, and even from a distance their smiles were evident. The box opened to reveal a ring. Not ostentatious, not trying to prove anything. Simple. Real. A promise made in metal and stone. Emma's gasp filled the kitchen like music. If you have loved someone despite the darkness they carried, if you have believed that one hand reached out at the right moment can change an entire life, drop a like right now. Share this story with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Subscribe because tomorrow we have another story about love found in the places we least expect it. Comment below, what would you have done in Mia's position at that airport gate? We wish you good health, joy, and days filled with peace. After the rain, the sky always clears. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you in the next video.